What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. My name is Haley, otherwise known as the Fictional Scholar, and today it is time to dive into all of these ships from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm talking all of the major ones that come up in conversation. We're talking Sukka, we're talking Kataang, Zutara, Maiko, Tang, Taka, TLA, that's Tylee and Sukka. We got Zuko and Jin, from the girl from the tea shop in Ba Sing Se. We got Katara and Jet. We got Katara and Haru. And we even have Aang and Tylee. So we have a whole array of ships that we are going to be looking at. This was requested from my Zutara videos. Thank you so much for the suggestion. I have been looking into this and just in my mind just going over and over in my mind about all the different ships from Avatar and what makes some of them just kind of off the wall and wild, what makes some of them like, oh, that makes sense, and even some of the canon ones that are like, oh, that is a good canon couple, and then of course we have the canon ones that are like, that's not a good couple. So in this video we're going to be breaking down the ships and kind of seeing like some of the less popular ones that are just kind of there, kind of seeing how people tied these characters together, what makes them ship them, how it could have worked out, how it couldn't have worked out. But then we're going to get into more like the standardized ships that are just kind of there, and some people ship them, some people don't, some people can see it happening, some are like, maybe if it would have been developed more. And then we're gonna get to the most popular ships, and by then, you know, it's Sokka and Suki, it's Katara and Zuko, it's Toph and Aang, it's Aang and Katara, it's, you know, all of the big ones are gonna be in the last category. So we're just gonna kind of work our way up to the most popular ships and kind of explore in the realm of Avatar the type of shipping that has taken place and how these characters have developed these relationships with others and why they would have worked out or why they would not have or should not have worked out. It's gonna be a doozy and I'm very excited to get into this. So without further ado, let's go right into the video. So in our first little category, we have the less popular ships, and in this one, I've kind of put Tylee and Sokka, the TLA ship, and Aang and Tylee. I don't know, Tylang. I don't know. And I've also put the Katara and Haru in this ship because I haven't seen. I've seen less talk about Katara and Haru together than I have like Katara and Jet or Katara and Zuko or things like that. So those are the main three that are in this kind of like bottom category of ships that we're going to be talking about. So the first one is probably the most popular of this group is the TLA, is Tylee and Sokka. Sokka is known for just pulling all the ladies in Avatar. He is just a ladies' man and knows how to just woo his way into women's life, I guess. I don't even know. He doesn't even have to try. He just does it. Tylee takes an interest in Sokka like immediately. She thinks he's really cute, and they have these kind of like flirtatious banter back and forth like during the drill, and she's like, and friends, and he's just like, hey. So like there's this little kind of flirtatious banter with them, and you know, even when at the end of season 2 in the Crossroads of Destiny, when Tylee is kind of battling Sokka, but not really, she's just kind of like play fighting with him in a sense because she's not really being serious enough because she could have just like ended him in a second, let's be real. She's just kind of like play fighting with him. She's like, ooh, it looks like we're dancing together. So she shows more interest in him than he does in her. It's kind of like a flirtatious banter back and forth. So they do have that sort of connection. I could have seen how it might have been developed later on, but that ship kind of lost its advantage in book 3, especially during the Boiling Rock whenever Suki got back into the gang, and Tylee, while she ended up betraying Azula to help May, she wasn't really an active part in helping them escape, she was still like fighting with Azula, fighting against them. While she didn't necessarily want to be doing that, she was just scared of Azula. It was just a very underdeveloped ship. It had a lot of potential. That ship had a lot of potential, and I could have seen it developing more, but it kind of just lost its momentum after book 2. And then we see them at the end of, book 3 when Ty Lee becomes a Kyoshi warrior. But even then, there's not that much, dialogue between the two of them, besides Ty Lee expressing how much she's enjoying being part of the Kyoshi warriors and that she's really made a connection with them. So I can see why people would ship them together, but again, it's more of that underdeveloped ship that didn't really get a lot of momentum, but I mean, it's still a cute one. I could totally see that. Another one is Aang and Ty Lee. I've heard more about this recently, and especially in a lot of the comments that I've read and seen recently, because Aang and Ty Lee, while they don't really have almost any interactions in the show, I think they have a few more in the comics maybe. I'm not completely sure on that. But I think people ship them because their personalities go so well together. They kind of mesh together. Ty Lee has more of that free-spiritedness like an airbender would, and she kind of matches Aang's energy and would be able to like have as much fun as Aang loves to have fun. They would just match energy so well. It would almost be chaotic for them to just go together. But Ty Lee, being the non-bender that she is, I think that would be a good balance for Aang to have like a different perspective or an outside look at, it's not necessarily all about, the power of bending or anything like that. It's a balance of both because, again, Aang is all about balance. He's all about, and having someone like Ty Lee, who is a very skilled fighter that has given them so much trouble when she's against them, having someone like her on his side, like by his side, would be a really cool balance of Aang being one of the most powerful bender there is, and Ty Lee being one of the most powerful non-benders there is. So I could definitely see the cool parallel between them and the balance that ship could represent, but there was just almost no interactions between those two in the show, and that's why it just kind of completely falls flat in the shipping race. But I will say, for that ship's kind of benefit, that Aang and Ty Lee's personalities would mesh really well together. I do believe that. So the next one is Katara and Haru. I don't really know if there's like an official ship name for this one. Hatara? No. But, Katara and Haru have a really interesting dynamic about them. Katara is the one who has inspired Haru to fight back, to stand up, to gain his courage back, and she really has a good connection with him. If I didn't see all 3 seasons of the show and I just saw like season 1, I would think that Katara would end up being with either Haru or Jet if I just saw season 1 because of the chemistry she had with those characters. Mostly Haru because of Jet's incident in season 1. Katara inspires Haru to be a better and more confident person, and Haru is there as kind of like the support and someone who admires Katara and sees her strength and really supports that strength and her stubbornness in a way that's not diminishing her, but it's also not like a, oh, well, you're being too stubborn. It's a, no, I understand why you're doing this. Thank you for not giving up on me. That sort of relationship. They have a really kind of balanced relationship, and even in season 3 when Haru shows back up and he's got the little mustache and everything, Katara even blushes around like him, and like she's got a good relationship with Haru's father already. Like she helped save him too. Like she has a really good dynamic within that family. So they did have some chemistry together, and Katara does kind of fit into that dynamic that Haru's family has, but at the end of the day, it's just like Ty Locket. It fell short because it was underdeveloped, and it just kind of lost its way after, not lost its way, it kind of lost its momentum after season 3. Like, even though Haru was officially with their group for a lot of the latter half of the season, it never really felt like he was truly a part of them or that they had a lot of conversations because it was never shown. So it just really lost its momentum there and it didn't have the time to develop, so that's why it fell short. Moving on to the more standard ships that you kind of see where there's a little more reasoning to them, but they still aren't as developed as the more popular ships. They're just kind of right there in the middle. Average ships that just kind of are the standard ones that people can see are like, oh, that's good, or oh, that's not good. So in this one, we have Taka, we have Zuko and Jin, and we have Katara and Jet. Taka is, of course, you know, Toph and Sokka. There was a lot going for these two, kind of building. Actually, it kind of just built towards the end of season 2 into season 3. There's a lot of trust between them. Of course, you know, Toph and Sokka have a really cool relationship dynamic. They can mess with each other. You know, Toph loves to mess with Sokka and, you know, kind of insult him in this really funny way, but he's really good at taking it and he gives it back. They have a really unique and dynamic friendship about them where Sokka can trust Toph to help him with things and Toph can trust Sokka to help her do things, even though she never likes to admit she needs help about things. Sokka is the one that she always kind of leans towards when she needs help, other than like Katara. She often like holds on to Sokka when she can't see or like when she's riding on something for kind of the stability. And it implies just a lot of trust between the two. And I think it's pretty obvious to say that Toph definitely had a crush on Sokka, and Sokka was just a little bit oblivious to that one. But it was definitely there, and it was more developed in season 3, like especially in Sokka's master, where he's learning the ways of the sword and they're kind of on their own, and Toph just admits, she's like, I miss Sokka. And then when Sokka comes back, she's like, oh, they acted like they missed you or something. I didn't care, and she's blushing, of course. There was definitely something there, and then throughout season 3, when the end of season 3 hits, and, you know, Sokka, Toph, and Suki are together on the airships during that whole finale, just fighting. They have this awesome connection of fighting together, and Sokka saving Toph's life and protecting her any chance he can. Of course, there's that like iconic scene of like Sokka holding on to Toph as she's dangling from the airship. Like she's completely blind. She can't see anything. She can't feel anything on her feet, obviously. And she's literally just hanging onto Sokka's hand, trusting him not to drop her. And he's like, hang on, Toph. And when he's like, I don't think Boomerang's coming back, and she starts crying, like, that's a very emotional moment that the two have together. So I think it is a pretty easy ship to see. They have a lot of chemistry. They have a lot of really good moments together that have helped develop both of their characters, especially when Sokka takes Toph to the side in The Runaway to tell her about his mom and to talk to her about Katara and everything. And Toph, once he shares his vulnerability, Toph opens up and gets vulnerable with him and shares, you know, what she really feels about Katara. So they really have a very well-balanced relationship, and I could have seen them getting together if it weren't for Suki, because Suki, we'll talk about that later, but Suki and Sokka's dynamic is just, it was so much better developed throughout all 3 seasons instead of just the latter parts of like season 2 and then into season 3. But I can definitely see how people ship Toph and Sokka together. I mean, they have the chemistry, their personalities are very good, both are sarcastic, both are very witty. Sokka is very smart. Toph is really smart. She's very strategic when it comes to battle. The greatest earthbender to ever live. Sokka is a master swordsman. There'd be a really cool balanced dynamic between the two. The possibility was there and I could have seen it happening, but it didn't, and I wasn't upset that it didn't happen. So it wasn't one of those where like it broke my heart not to see them together, But I could have seen, if it had been that way, I could have seen it happening and I wouldn't have been shocked or surprised by it had that happened. Now this other one, Zuko and Jin. Jin from Ba Sing Se, when, you know, just the tales of Ba Sing Se, that was the only time we got to see her interact with Zuko. And it was just a really cute little mini episode of them going on a date, you know, Zuko being so socially awkward and relatable. But, you know, them on their date, and, you know, she takes him to see the lights and they're not lit. He lights them for her. She's not a snitch. I think she's smart enough to figure out who he is, but she's not going to say anything. So I respect her for that. And then, you know, they share a kiss and everything, and Zuko leaves after he says, oh, it's complicated. Jin, I think, would have been a really cool tie-in for Zuko if he was really going along the path of, you know, leaving the kind of Fire Nation he grew up with behind and really reaching out to the world to kind of create that balance and reach out to say, like, the Fire Nation isn't just secluded into itself anymore, like he's going out. It would have been cool to kind of see them reunite at least, or just see like how she would have reacted knowing who he really was, like how he would have gone about to maybe like apologize to her, or, you know, kind of make amends for one, leaving, and then two, helping Azula take over Ba Sing Se. So they did have a really cute dynamic, and Jen seemed really just bubbly and open to any possibilities, and she just kind of really just drug Zuko along and kind of helped him pretty much get acquainted with people again and get him assimilated with the people of Ba Sing Se and the people of the Earth Kingdom. Like, she really just... I think if their relationship had like a metaphor, it'd be like the extrovert adopting the introvert and just taking them along by the hand. Like, that's pretty much what happened. But it was cute, and it didn't feel forced, it didn't feel toxic, it wasn't anything like that. It was just a cute little thing. But it didn't have a lot to it. We literally only saw her for like that short little section, and they didn't do anything else with it. It was completely underdeveloped and just kind of tossed to the side, even though that could have been a good possibility for a relationship with Zuko, or at least a really good friendship that Zuko could have had in the Earth Kingdom to tie him there. 'Twas not meant to be. I can see why people would ship them, but with as little as there was in the show, it just did not seem plausible for them to ever get together and for it to make sense. Now, the other one in this kind of like standard ship section is Katara and Jet. Now, I've seen a lot of people ship Katara and Jet, more so than I ever thought there would be. It kind of follows that trope of like the classic like love at first sight type of thing with Katara. Like, she's immediately infatuated with Jet when they meet, and I mean, he's a charming person, he's got a way with words, he was really attractive to her, and he drew her in, and of course he was smooth with it, like the way he twirls her around into his arms to lift her up into the treehouse. Like, yeah, the man had a way to go about things. Now, of course, you know, this possible ship took a turn whenever Jet decided to be evil and try to destroy an entire town. So of course Katara was against that and quite literally froze him to a tree and basically said, how could you? That trust was instantly lost, and we know Katara, once her trust is lost, it takes a while to get it back, which is why when we see Jet again in season 2 after he's brainwashed by the Dai Li, you know, Katara is obviously very upset to see him and is angry and suspicious, almost stabs him with her icicles, you know, like, she does not trust him at all. As the Lake Laogai episode progresses and she spends more time with him and she realizes, like, no, he's not lying, like, he's been brainwashed, this has hurt him, something's happened, and she starts to heal him, like, she's like, let me help you. That trust was slowly gained back by Jet, and she wanted to help him again, and she does. And they all end up fighting together, you know, it's cool. And then, of course, what really killed this ship, quite literally, is that Jet was killed. I think had Jet lived, he would have stood a real good chance at winning Katara's heart in this show if he had lived. I'm not gonna hold you, because the way he kind of came back on this little redemptive arc that he had after being brainwashed, after he realized, you know, what was going on, what was happening, after he comes back from this and he's trying to do the right thing, I think either they would have joined the gang or they would have at least helped them along the way, came back in season 3. No doubt in my mind about that they would have had a major impact in season 3. But alas, Jet was taken out in a very brutal and very sudden way. And it is very sad because when he looks at Katara, he's like, I'll be fine, Katara. And of course, you know, Toph solidifies it with the whole he's lying. That one did make me sad. A lot sadder than I was expecting to be when it came to that. But yeah, I could have definitely seen Katara and Jet happening because of the progression Jet was making and because of how he truly and earnestly just wanted her trust back and was trying to get her trust back while helping the gang try to find Appa. I think he would have stood a really good chance. But they did have a lot of chemistry. Of course, like, they practically had dated a little bit, I guess you could say, when they were at the treehouse, because Toph even asked, she was like, was this guy your boyfriend? Of course, Katara was like, what? No. And Toph's like, I can tell you're lying. So yeah, they were definitely a thing, definitely a couple. Jet was probably Katara's first, like, official boyfriend, I think. If I got that right. If I'm not right, let me know down below. But I think I'm right on that. But yeah, Katara and Jet, obviously they had the chemistry together. They had their back and forth, and the possibility was there, but the writing literally just kind of X'd that out immediately. So I can see why people would want to ship them, but that's definitely a ship that could never set sail because one of the two people involved is no longer with us. And that brings us to the top tier of these rankings, the favorite ships in the Avatar: The Last Airbender world. It is, of course, Sukka, Maiko, Zutara, Kataang, and Tang. We got the big 5 in this one, and whew, there's so much I could say about these ships, but let's take it one at a time. We're gonna start with Tang, Toph, and Aang. I think this is one of my personal favorites, besides Zutara and Sukka. This is one of my personal favorites because Toph and Aang work so well together. They have so much chemistry. They balance each other like in a really perfect way that he doesn't get in like his relationship with Katara. Like, that relationship is not balanced. We're gonna get there. But I think Tang would have been a very successful ship because Toph and Aang, like, when they first meet, Aang is just mesmerized with Toph's earthbending skills and her strength and her power despite her physical disability of being blind. And he is just completely amazed at her. And Toph, you know, Aang is kind of the first person to kind of like take her out from this sheltered world that she's been living in and get her to see the world. He's the first friend she's ever had, and that means so much to both her and him. Now, of course, they have their fights. They bicker with one another. They butt heads on several occasions. But they're both stubborn people with some different ideologies that over time they kind of come to see, like, they don't see eye to eye at first, but over the course of season 2 and season 3, they kind of come to see eye to eye with each other and respect each other's different beliefs and the way they go about doing things. Toph and Aang follow a really cool progression in the story of just being like, oh, the mentor and mentee, of like Toph teaching Aang earthbending, to their good friends who can rely and trust each other, to they're working together constantly, they're laughing together, they're sharing stories together. And honestly, I think they would have been a good match because the way they balance each other. Aang is very free-spirited and, you know, he's pretty much the embodiment of the element of air, while Toph is very stubborn, very down to earth. She's the embodiment of the element of earth. And while those two are opposing elements, like see them work so harmoniously side by side is beautiful. Just like I mentioned with the whole Ty Lee and Aang ship, that balance is what Aang is always striving for, to keep that balance. Toph would balance Aang and pretty much keep Aang centered and down to earth. She calls him out when he's doing something wrong. She is the first to be like, hey, no, what are you doing? Like, she does not hesitate to call him out on anything. Like, especially when they were training together, she was the embodiment of tough love. And that's exactly what Aang needed. Like, he needs that tough love because he is so free-spirited and he's still very childish and kind of likes to dance around like the topic of certain things. Toph is often that kind of solid voice that's just like, no, we need to talk. She was the one who basically told Aang and the rest of the group, she was just like, no, like, y'all aren't thinking clearly. When Zuko was trying to join them, she was like, y'all aren't thinking clearly. We just talked about needing a firebending teacher for Aang, and y'all are trying to let your past feelings get in the way of this. And at least, if anything, that's the only voice of reason that Aang gets to hear from it, because he doesn't hear it from Katara and he doesn't hear it from Sokka. Toph provides that kind of down-to-earth voice of reason that sees through those emotions. She's just very factual about it. And I think that's a good... I think that would have been really good for Aang. I think they could have... I really think they could have worked really well together. The reason that ship failed was... I think that was just the creator, the author, the writer's choice on that one of why they didn't get together. Because I thought when we were introduced to Toph and the way she kept interacting with Aang, I was like, oh, these two are going to be together. Cool. Then next up we got Maiko, or Maiko, whichever one. We got Maiko. This is my least favorite ship of all time. Like, I absolutely hate Zuko and Mai together. Just, it does not make any sense. And people are like, oh, well, Mai saved Zuko from Azula. You know, she risked her life to do that. That's wonderful. Just because someone does something like that does not mean they are a good fit to be in a relationship together. Just throwing that out there. But Zuko and Mai are like, they had childhood crushes on each other, and these childhood crushes just seem to grow, and we didn't really see it in Zuko at all until season 3. In season 2, you know, Ty Lee kind of teased Mai about seeing Zuko again. She kind of had this little smile on her face. That was literally the only indication we ever got from her. And then in season 3, out of nowhere, because we never got any indication from Zuko that he was interested in Mai or anything of the sort after he grew up, besides, you know, the little childhood crushes that they had on each other. And then suddenly in season 3, we see them kissing, and oh, they're a couple, and it's like, where did this come from? Like, it literally, like, smacked us all out of nowhere, and it was just like, what? Where did this come from? I don't know about this. And their entire relationship is just so negative and so toxic. They're always fighting with each other, and that seems to be glorified in the Avatar universe for some reason, even though everybody hates toxic ships and hates couples who always fight. But when it comes to Zuko and Mai, oh, they're the perfect couple. They love each other so much. Huh? What? Like, the whole beach episode is just pretty much showing, like, how bad they are for each other. They don't see eye to eye on anything. They're constantly bickering. Yes, part of it is because Zuko's anger is just out of control, but another part of it is on Mai too, because she doesn't really show a lot of interest in anything, and it negatively affects her relationships all around her. Just always fighting, and then, oh, they're getting back together, and then, oh, he leaves. You know, he leaves her a note and breaks up with her to go join the Avatar. Okay, cool. I thought, like, when that happened, I was like, oh, he's completely, like, broken off from the Fire Nation and kind of left that part of the Fire Nation behind him, what he grew up with, everything that he had held on to for so long. He finally cut it off and was moving on to get that fresh start to start over and be good, you know, to complete that redemption arc. And he does, but then yes, you know, she comes to the Boiling Rock because of course the warden is her uncle and everything. Even their interactions there is just them fighting with each other because May doesn't understand Zuko, and Zuko is just like, I'm doing what I have to. I'm sorry if you don't understand, but I'm not betraying my country. I'm saving it. Yes, May saves Zuko. She doesn't let him and the others fall into a boiling lake and die. That was an awesome character development moment for her because she realized that maybe Zuko had a point and that something in the Fire Nation was wrong. And her saying she loves Zuko more than she fears Azula, it sounds like a very profound statement, but it's not in a way. Like, I'm not trying to downplay what she did because it was amazing what she did. It took a lot of courage to stand up to someone like Azula. Her saving them should not equal everything in their relationship being fixed and they're having a happy relationship. Because just because she loves more than she fears does not mean that love has to be in a relationship. And even in the comics, they break up. They don't even end up together in the comics. So why make them be an endgame couple in the show? I have no idea. Actually, I have an inkling it was because they wanted to pair Zuko off with someone else so that we wouldn't be upset when Katara got paired off with Aang. We were like, oh. They were basically like, oh, we're gonna take him off the market so y'all can't be mad at us. Well, guess what? We're still mad. We still got mad over it. But for them to kind of end up together at the end still didn't feel right, and they didn't fix any of their problems. It still wasn't a good relationship, and it's still just, there was no basis for it at the beginning of season 3, and then for them to break up in the comics, they never even ended up together. It just made it seem kind of pointless, in my opinion. So I never understood that ship, and I probably never will. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. The next one we're gonna talk about is Zutara. Of course, that's my all-time favorite ship. I've made 2 videos on it so far, so obviously I have a lot to say on it. Zuko and Katara have so much good chemistry together. It is a very classic enemies to lovers that they both overcome a lot. They balance each other really well. Their personalities go very well together. The way they balance each other, they respect each other and respect who each other is, not who they want each other to be. Like another ship I'm gonna get to talking about. But they respect each other and they stand on equal grounds. It's a very equal relationship. You know, I talked about a lot of stuff in my Zutara videos, so if you want to see how in depth I get on them, please go check out those videos because I can't repeat everything here, even though I would very much so love to go on another rant about Zutara. Zutara has a lot of symbolism to it. There's a lot of good grounds and a lot of good build up and momentum for this ship. Even like with the story of the story of the Cave of Two Lovers, like that is pretty much the embodiment of the Zutara ship. Like that's a really good analogy and like symbolism for it. Tui and La, of course, you have this yin and yang, this balance. Zuko and Katara both have these opposite personas, the Painted Lady, the Blue Spirit, and there's just so much built between them that it would have made so much sense for them to be together. Like in the finale of Avatar, Zuko and Katara are together basically that entire finale. The entire finale, those two are together. And, you know, of course, Zuko saves Katara's life. Katara, in turn, saves his life. And then at the end, it's just like, they don't interact after that? That makes no sense. Okay. It was just like they built up and up and up and up, and then they was just like, oh, nope, we're not gonna do this, sorry. I still, to this day, do not know why they did not make Zutara canon. But I know there's several of you out there who agree with me on that. But yes, Zutara is my all-time favorite ship in the Avatar universe. I think it would have been, I think they would have made the most logical sense for the show. and for the direction the show was heading. And then we're gonna get to Kataang, which another one of these ships I'm not really a fan of. I mean, of course, yes, it's the canon ship, of course. Aang and Katara are together. I honestly never liked the ship because, one, I always felt like, especially in the first 2 seasons, that Katara more looked at Aang as like not only like her student, but like, or like a little brother or something like that, or even like, oh, like someone she had to protect, not somebody that she looked at with romantic interest. And people often use like, oh, well, the fortune teller says Katara was supposed to marry a powerful bender. There's a lot of powerful benders in the world. You don't have to be the Avatar to be classified as a powerful bender. Zuko is a powerful bender. Haru was a powerful bender. Ozai is a powerful bender. like that's such a vague thing, but people use that to say, oh, well, Katara's supposed to marry a powerful bender, it's gotta be the Avatar. It's like, no, that's just an assumption. Most of season 1, like, she does not even consider him one bit romantically at all. None. But Aang, from like the moment he lays eyes on Katara, he's like fixated on her, and all eyes on her. He wants to get the girl. He wants her. He's like obsessed with Katara in a sense. Because of that, he only likes to see the positive sides of Katara, and he often neglects the other sides of her. Like, he doesn't recognize her anger, her stubbornness, the trauma that she has. He never really asks about what happened to her mom that were shown. Like, she said that her mother was taken by the Fire Nation, and he never questions her further. From what we're shown in canon, like, he never asked her further about it. This kind of like fixation and kind of holding Katara up on a pedestal makes Aang kind of see her with blinders on and this little, like, this tunnel vision. And even in season 2, like the Cave of Two Lovers, people will use that, and it's like they were trying not to die. There was nothing really romantic about the situation. They were just trying to get out of a situation so they didn't die. Like, if she blushed because she almost kissed him, or if, I don't know, I don't think it was ever confirmed if they did or not. Like, girls are gonna blush over almost kissing a guy. Like, I never read too much into that. That might just be my bias as well. I can't admit that I might be biased against it. But I never even read too much into that, even when I was a kid. I just thought it was like, well, they were doing this because it was the most logical thing to do at the time. And then it's like completely forgotten until towards the end of season 2. You know, Aang admits that he loves her to the Guru, and the Guru is like, you need to let her go in order to access the Avatar state. One thing that always bothered me, when he is saying what attaches you to this world, Katara is the only one to show up. As angry as he got over Appa being gone, Appa wasn't part of what attached him to this world, because of how much he loves his bison, his animal guide. Sokka never popped up. His best friend, Toph, never popped up. Momo never popped up. It was just Katara, and that didn't quite sit right with me, because earthly attachment doesn't just mean like romantic love for a person. Like, earthly attachment is like something that attaches you to this world. Appa attaches Aang to this world. He loves Appa dearly, enough to go on a rampage for him. But Katara's the only one who shows up. That's a whole other conversation that we could have, but I'm not going to get into that. But Aang's love for Katara seems more of like this fixation on her, and he sees her through these rose-colored glasses, and it's almost like Katara's a prize for Aang to win. And I don't like that. Even throughout season 3, it kind of seemed like out of nowhere that Katara automatically had this romantic interest in Aang, like, that just sparked out of nowhere. It's like, where did this come from? It wasn't as in your face as Mei and Zuko was, but it was still kind of shocked me, like, whoa, like, when did she start, you know, like, We always knew Aang looked at her like that. When did Katara start doing this? Like, it just happened out of nowhere. But even after, like, let's say, after the invasion where Aang kisses Katara, of course she's blushing about it. She just got kissed and then he flew off. Like, yeah, that was a smooth move. Good job, Aang. Real smooth. I will give him that credit. That was a smooth move. But after that, they never talk about it. It never gets brought up until the Ember Island players, where Aang's getting so mad about seeing Katara possibly with another person, which he admits. He was like, if I hadn't blocked my chakra, I'd be in the Avatar state by now from a play. That's not exactly the healthiest mindset to have when you approach relationship. And I mean, I get it. Aang is a kid, but that still is just like, calm down, like, buddy, it's okay. It's a, like, at that point you're like, it's a play, my guy. Relax. And then, you know, Katara is like kind of folded into herself. She seems really closed off, and when he's bringing up the kiss, and she's like, well, I don't know. Like, we're in the middle of a war. I don't know. And then he kisses her again anyways, and of course she gets mad and storms off. And Aang's like, oh, I'm such an idiot. It's like, yeah, you are. But after that point, they don't really have a lot of positive conversations. Like, one of the next conversations they have is her kind of arguing with Aang about, like, what to do when he goes up against Ozai. Now, I get it. Aang's super stressed out at the moment. He has no idea what he's gonna do. He just doesn't want to kill Ozai. He has to find another way. I get it. He's super stressed. They're all super stressed. The conversation didn't go well. But they don't have another conversation in the series, actually. Because after, you know, Ozai's down, Zuko becomes Fire Lord, the next thing you know, they're at the end and they're hugging and kissing each other. There was no conversations about Katara's feelings. There was no conversation about Aang's feelings. It just kind of was popped in there at the end of like, oh, the hero has to get the girl. We gave her the girl. It's a happy ending. Yay. It made Katara seem like a trophy or a prize to be won. And I hate that for her, because Katara's character development, her growth, was working away from her just being some sort of prize. I didn't like that at all. There was just so much that kind of seemed unfinished and unended. Aang never really accepted all of Katara, and Katara never really once expressed her feelings about Aang, how she truly felt about him. Never once in the show. And the biggest argument I've seen, like, for Kataang shippers, when they're like, oh, well, how could you possibly ship, you know, Katara with anybody else? Like, that would break Aang's heart. Oh, poor Aang. I have never once heard anybody say, oh, poor Katara, or, oh, that would break Katara's heart. Never once have I heard that argument from anybody who ships Kataang. Because it's like, from most of it being a lot from Aang's perspective, kind of showing through like his journey and everything, people are kind of like, oh, well, we want Aang and Katara to get together, without really looking objectively at the whole picture of Aang kind of didn't respect Katara's wishes. Katara never once said how she felt about Aang, and yet somehow they ended up together after never resolving anything. No, I do not believe Kataang would have worked or should have worked. I don't think it would have been a successful relationship, because the chemistry they had was more of, it was like family. Not like, oh, a husband and wife family. It's like, no, that's like a brother and a sister, or like a mother and her son, like type of, like, it was just like a family bond. I never saw them as anything else, and it just felt weird having them be together. And for all of you who are saying, oh, Aang was meant for Katara, like Katara was meant for Aang. Aang's 112 years old. He should have been dead and withered before Katara was even born, had things gone normally. Like, I get it. He was frozen in an iceberg for 100 years. It's fine. But to end this off, we have the top of all ships, the top tier one, the one canon couple that I can actually get behind and support, and that is Sukka. Sokka and Suki. They set this ship up so well. From season 1, episode 4, the island of Kyoshi, the Kyoshi Warriors, you know, Sokka was, I have no other way to say it, Sokka was sexist and didn't think women could be good fighters, and Suki literally swoops in and puts Sokka in his place. Like, literally smacked the sexism out of him and made him respect women, and he's been doing it ever since. And I love that. But, I mean, besides that, they have such an awesome dynamic because they have this respect for each other where Sokka now sees Suki as a warrior, but Suki also says, like, I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too. And they really just have this instant connection with each other. It goes from like this bickering of, oh, a bunch of girls, huh, to a very solid foundation of Suki teaching Sokka, you know, kind of backing off his pride and being taught by her, to in season 2 she comes back on the Serpent's Pass and he's so excited to see her, but because of what happened with Yue, he wants to protect Suki and is being like a little overbearing, but it's very obvious why he's being that way. And of course, you know, they have these talks like under the moonlight and everything, Suki expressing that she lost somebody she cared about, which because Sokka went away, and Sokka saying like how much he wants to protect her, and they're almost kissed at the end of the episode. Sokka kissing Suki with the whole "you talk too much," like very smooth, my boy. That was so smooth. But you could tell like there's just so much chemistry together. Their banter and bickering is amazing, just chef's kiss, especially when it gets to season 3 when Sokka finds out that Azula did something to Suki, like the instantaneous anger and just the where is Suki. See, this makes me smile. This makes me happy. Then, of course, in the Boiling Rock, where he finds Suki again, of course he gets smacked because he tries to approach Suki when he's still got the guard outfit on. But once that whole thing is resolved, she's so happy to see him. They instantly start working up a plan to escape. And Suki is a real ride or die, because even though Sokka is trying to get her to leave without him when he's staying to see if his dad's coming, Suki's just like, I'm not leaving without you. Like, I'm staying here with you. She trusts Sokka that much that when Sokka's explaining that Zuko is good now, she believes him and acts with that, instead of just being like, no, there's no way this guy can be good. I'm not going to trust you on this. She trusts Sokka enough for that, be like, okay, if you say he's good, I'm going to believe you. I still have my doubts, but I'm going to believe you. Their escape on the Boiling Rock, like Suki plays such a major role for them, and even Sokka's dad's like, that's some girl, and Sokka's like, tell me about it. I know I got a good one. Their whole development, like the way they interact, their banter, the way like they just casually go about like leaning on each other, hugging each other, or even kissing each other, like it's so fluid and it makes so much sense for them to just act so naturally around each other. Like they just have such a solid built relationship. And of course with the end of season 3, like they're together on the airship, they get separated, you know, and Suki being the OG that she is, she's just like, no, finish the mission, I'll be fine. Like after they get separated, she's just like, no, I got this. You go finish the mission, I'll be fine. And then she comes in later and saves him and Toph, which, best girl. So I love them together. They have a very solid storyline where both of their characters go through development throughout the course of the 3 seasons. And their characters really balance each other. They play off each other. Their characters like push the other to be better. Suki inspires Sokka and Sokka inspires Suki. Like it's such a good, healthy relationship just to see them. It's like the best relationship Avatar did right. It's like the shit Avatar did right was putting Sokka and Suki together. And I'm so happy that they did, or else I would have been totally upset. But the chemistry they have together is impeccable. Their story arc is so well made, even though it's just like a side story. It's very well done. The way their characters balance each other, the way they are both non-benders but support each other and are super strong in their own right and hold their own against benders. They stand on equal grounds. They don't see the other as weaker or lesser, anything like that. Suki quite literally got rid of that problem in season 1. It's just a really good ship. I really like them together. They're so sweet. And the fact that apparently they did not end up together in the comics makes absolutely no sense. Zero. None. No sense at all. They're quite literally just perfect for each other. Like, Suki is so accepting of what Sokka believes in, and Sokka is so accepting of Suki's strength and what she believes in. Like, I mean, it just shows so much about Suki's character and Sokka's character, like how they've both grown on each other and how they've grown with each other and the effects they've had on the other. I think Sukka is like the best developed ship that Avatar: The Last Airbender did. But with that, those are the 3 categories I've kind of split these ships up in. If there is a specific ship you would like me to get more into, let me know down in the comments. I would gladly do one of the ships, even if it's not a ship I like. I would happily do one of them, and whether to explain my thoughts on it, why I think it's good, why I think it's bad, anything like that, let me know down in the comments. If you think I've missed something essential to one of the ships I've listed here and I left out something big, let me know down in the comments. I would love to have an open conversation. Just be nice. This is just my opinion and my kind of ranking and explanation of the ships, the ones I like, the ones I don't like, the ones I could have seen happening, the ones I don't really think could have happened. Avatar has a lot of different possibilities for ships in the show. A lot got just kind of cast aside and underdeveloped. There was a potential for a few that could have easily been canon and probably should have been canon, but was not, I think, just due to the writer's personal preference. But that is kind of the breakdown of the ships from Avatar. But if you want more like this, let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this video. I know it's a little bit longer, so thank you so much for watching this and supporting me. If you like my videos and you want to see more, please subscribe down below if you like. Leave me a like and a comment if you want. But other than that, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!